All right, we are talking Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz 3. This fight is not going down at this current point in time. Conor McGregor just beat Eddie Alvarez, and people are talking about Nate Diaz. Dana White himself said, we're not having this fight. So what's going to happen if this fight takes place? Well, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about what does Nate Diaz need to do. This is my advice for Nate Diaz. Hey, Nate, if you're watching, and I know a lot of you guys might not believe this, but not a lot, but some UFC fighters actually watch my videos, so it's true. They do. So my advice for Nate Diaz, if he's watching, is, he even said, Nate Diaz is a millionaire. He made millions and millions of dollars in those fights versus Conor. He doesn't need to go fight anybody. He doesn't need to do anything. He don't ever have to fight again, Nate Diaz. He doesn't. Because prior to those fights, he wasn't really making that much money. I mean, he has money. He had money, I'm sure. But now, he's a millionaire. Nate Diaz is a millionaire. But if he wants that third fight with Conor McGregor, I do not think the UFC is just going to give it to him. Especially now that Conor McGregor says he's taking some time off. They're not just gonna, like, a year from now, 2 years from now, just say, hey Nate Diaz, you haven't fought in 2 years, you haven't fought in a year. You want to just fight Conor McGregor for a third fight? No, I mean, the Nate Diaz beating Conor McGregor is somewhat relevant. Nate Diaz, he fights at 155. Most of his career 155. Conor's the 155 champion. They're talking. People are talking about Khabib. I never even made a video about Khabib, just because I don't think Khabib has fought who he needs to fight to be considered as somebody that should be fighting for the title. He just beat Michael Johnson. I mean, that's great, but Nate Diaz beat Michael Johnson. So Michael Johnson's a good fighter, but what I think Nate Diaz should do, since Conor McGregor is taking some time off, is, and I know he doesn't want to do this, Nate Diaz doesn't want to do this, because, why would I go fight these guys for this money? The reason you would is so you can get that big fight. You're not just going to constantly get, like Nate Diaz, I mean, they gave him that fight versus Conor McGregor. They threw him in there as somebody to be just kind of a punching bag, and a gimme fight. They thought Conor was going to beat him, and Nate won the fight. So it was just kind of a fluke coincidence. Then they ended up getting a rematch, not because the UFC wanted it, because Conor McGregor wanted it, because he wanted to redeem this. So Nate Diaz, and we can't say lucked out, because he went in there and beat Conor McGregor. There's no luck in beating somebody. But we won't say lucked out. It just worked out for him financially, where he made millions of dollars. What I think Nate Diaz should do, Nate Diaz should fight, I think he should fight Tony Ferguson. That's what I think. I think he should fight Tony Ferguson. I really do. I think that's who Nate Diaz should fight. I think it'd be a really good fight. Tony Ferguson is, to me, probably somebody that should be fighting for the title. Especially now, after beating Rafael dos Anjos. People are talking about Khabib, but I don't think so. He hasn't beat these other guys. So I think Nate Diaz should be trying to make the fight with Tony Ferguson. Don't be so concerned about the money, because you know what? You'll earn your money. If Nate Diaz beats Tony Ferguson, which he could, then he can make a case for not only has he earned the title shot, plus it'd be the Conor McGregor Nate Diaz third fight, and it would make more sense. It wouldn't just be a random fight, because these random fights, I'm not really into that much. I'm gonna rather see, Nate Diaz could beat Conor McGregor in the third fight, okay, but go in there, make Tony Ferguson versus Nate Diaz. That's the fight that I think they should make. I think it's a good fight. I think it's totally legit. It's totally a legitimate fight. And that's the fight I think they should make. Tony Ferguson versus Nate Diaz. And man, I tell you what, Nate is not going to make as much money. But you know what? See, Nate, he's still going to get a lot of money in that fight. Not millions and millions of dollars, but Nate Diaz is even a bigger star than before he fought Conor McGregor. So he's going to make a lot of money. You see what I'm saying? He's still making money off the Conor McGregor fight, even though he's not fighting Conor McGregor, because it kind of just it built up his name even more. He's got a cult following, people like me that like the Diaz brothers. But I mean, he can literally. I mean, people are going to want to see that fight, man. Tony Ferguson versus Nate Diaz. That's the fight they should make. I'll see you guys later.